Hi, welcome to The Musical Drummer, the channel where we help you sound like you and nobody else, where we help you remove the limitations, the assumptions, the roadblocks that help you from expressing yourself your way on your drums and becoming the drummer everybody wants to play with. If that sounds good to you, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and like the video. That really helps an awful lot. Thanks. This first episode, we're going to be looking at what makes music music. What is music? And we're also going to be looking at why your drumming may be too good and what we can do to fix that. So I hope you'll join me. My name's Mark. I'm so glad you're here. Come on in. This is a new channel that I just started, and as you can tell from the title, the goal of these videos that I'm going to be making is to help you become a more musical drummer. And you might well ask yourself, what does that mean? I'm playing music now. I'm playing with a band. I know all of this stuff. I'm really good at drumming and haven't gotten any complaints. So I must be a musical drummer. What should I be doing differently, right? And I'll tell you what I mean by this. And to get at that, we need to talk about what music is, right? So you tell me, what's your definition of music, right? Is it just notes arranged in a particular order? I'm sure there's a wonderful definition in the dictionary. For me, the way I think of it is music is a means of expressing something, an idea, a feeling, an experience, a inner reality that you can't express through words. When I was in college studying music, I was studying with this classical trumpeter, very, very famous authority on Bach and an incredible musician. And his world revolved entirely around classical music. And so one of the workshop I was doing with him, we got talking about jazz, which is something he knew nothing about. And somebody played he referred to hearing a jazz saxophonist playing a solo, and he said, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand what he was doing. What's he trying to say? And so I looked at the teacher and I said, well, if he could just say it in words, he wouldn't need the horn. That to me is what I mean by being music. Is that it is the expression of something you can't get across in words. It's something you can't get across, at least not words alone, words as lyrics with instruments or just sung is absolutely music, of course. But that's because it's combined with the expressive quality of music. Music is expression. Even something, Louie Louie, it's still expressing something, right? Youthful foolishness, maybe, but it is expressing something, and that's what music does. Drumming, you might think, and certainly a lot of other people think, that drumming is not an expressive kind of instrument, right? We other than doing a roll, we can't sustain a note. We don't have specific pitches. People think, and you may think mistakenly, that all you have is rhythm. And that's just not true at all. Your drum set has pitches. They may not be as precise as a pitch on a piano key, but they're absolutely pitches. You have high toms, low toms, snare drum, bass drum. Your cymbals all have different pitches to them and lots of overtones. We have a drum set is a very harmonically rich, diverse kind of thing, and each drum itself can make multiple sounds just by the way you hit it or press your finger against the head. You know, a master hand drummer can take a conga drum and get 25 different sounds out of it. So this is a big part of what we're going to be working on through these videos, is the idea of what a drum can be and what drumming can be. And where this started for me was, I'm getting on in years. I'm 71 years old right now. And I got my first drum on my first birthday. My father was a drummer, and he was my inspiration, still is my inspiration. He's passed on now, but still, anytime I'm playing the drums, he's there. He's right there, and I still hope someday to live up to the example he set as a musician. So the reason I'm telling you all this, I mean, as I said, I got my first drum on my first birthday. My first band that I had, it was my band, we performed on stage when I was 10. And I've been playing on stage ever since then. I mention all of that for two reasons. One is it means I've made most of the mistakes you can make as a drummer. And that means if I'm telling you something, it could be worth listening to, because you get to learn from the mistake I made. If I tell you, you know, this works or this doesn't work, that came out of screwing it up, is where it came out of. And so if you listen to what I'm saying, you can save yourself the trouble of having to make that mistake. So there's that. That's the relatively minor point. The bigger thing about my age, and the reason I mention it, is because in all of those years, in those 61 years of performing on stage, I've seen a lot of changes in music and in drumming in particular. And right now, the drumming I'm hearing these days, and not just at the top levels, but like at every level of drumming, the things that younger drummers are learning and playing are phenomenal. I mean, the complexity of drumming these days is so far beyond anything we could have imagined when I was a teenager. I mean, Ringo Starr was, you know, that was like, oh my God, look what he's doing. And now, you know, by the way, Ringo Starr is going to be a major model for us as we go through. We're going to talk about him a lot through these videos, because he is, in my mind, one of the most musical drummers that it has ever been. But as I was saying, things have changed. Drummers today are playing phenomenal stuff. Time signatures, you need a calculator to even write down. The technique that drummers are using today, so far beyond anything we had. You know, just every little aspect of hitting a drum has been honed to perfection. The stick height, the force you hit with, the place you hit on the drum. When I was learning, I studied with Fred Albright, who was the percussionist with Arturo Toscanini's orchestra. And he, great teacher, he taught me a lot of stuff. This is when I was like 14, 15 years old. And back then, there were 13 rudiments. You learned those 13 rudiments, and that was drumming. Now, it seems like every time I turn around, there's another rudiment added in there. I think we're up to like, what, 175 rudiments now, something like that? I'm joking. But all of this shows you the progression that drumming, technical drumming, has made. But the thing that I'm hearing, and the change that I've seen, right? The drumming that's going on now is about as perfect as drumming can get. And I, from my perspective as an older drummer, I see that as actually a problem. And I'll tell you why. As I said, that drumming's sort of perfect. Let me give you an example of what I'm trying to convey here, right? So if you look at this image here, right, that is a straight line. And that is, by definition, perfect. There's no deviations, there's no wiggles, there's no places where it stops. It's absolutely straight from one end to the other. It is a perfect thing. So that's perfection. This, look at this line. This is a very imperfect line. It's got all these ups and downs, right? And well, of course, now you know what these two things are. They're an oscilloscope from somebody in a hospital hooked up to electrodes on their body. This is perfect, and it is absolutely what you do not want to see on a machine hooked up to you in the hospital. It means you're dead. And of course, if you think about it, death is a perfect state. It is perfection itself. Nothing ever changes. It's completely steady, completely the same from day to day to day to day, forever. Perfection. I want you to hold these two pictures in your mind. Perfection equals death. Imperfection. And look, this is imperfect. These little bumps, they're not all the same height. They're not perfectly evenly spaced. There's variety in there. Perfection, death, imperfection, life. That's the problem I see with drumming too, because perfect drumming is, to me, perfect drumming is boring drumming. It's boring. There's no personality in it. There's no life in it. Life is messy. Life is complicated. Life is vibrant and trying to grow and change and do new things. That's what life is. Go out in the forest and find me two trees that are identical. You can't, because they're not the same. Every tree is different. Every animal's a little different. Every song's different. Every drummer should be different. I mean, when I was young, every drummer was different. Ringo Starr sounded nothing like John Bonham. John Bonham sounded nothing like Bill Bruford. Bill Bruford sounded nothing like Mitch Mitchell. And on and on and on. Dino Danelli, Greg Errico, any band you can think of, any major band, the drummer sounded completely different from every other drummer. And it wasn't just that drummer chose these particular rhythm patterns to play that were distinctive. I mean, they might have done that. But what really made them different was the feel, the rhythmic feel that they brought to the music. What made them distinctive were all the imperfections in their playing. You can go, I'm sure somewhere on YouTube there must be a video that isolates John Bonham's drumming in, say, Good Times, Bad Times, the first time any of us ever heard anybody do that broken triplet on the bass drum. That was mind-blowing, I can tell you. Right after that record came out, I saw them perform in New York in 1969, and I was watching him do that, and it just completely altered the universe for me. But the thing about him, and you'll see this, if you find a video somewhere that isolates his drumming on Good Times, Bad Times, where he first did that bass drum figure, it's completely uneven. There's nothing precise about it at all. The spaces between notes are very different from place to place. There's a swing element in his playing. In fact, most of those 60s drummers had some element of swing in their playing. And I think the reason they were distinctive and the reason they had some of that swing in their playing is because at that time, this approach to rock and roll, I mean, there had been rock and roll before, right? There's Chuck Berry, there's Little Richard, which is, fantastic stuff. But that's very different from what the Beatles were doing. Very different from, God knows, different from what Led Zeppelin was doing. Really different. And this music in the 60s, and then the British invasion and everything that flowed from that, they were inventing this music as they were playing it. Drummers in these bands had no one to model themselves on, except they all grew up listening to jazz. If you look on the back of those old records, they'll all talk about how they were, Sandy Nelson was like a big influence. They all listened to Sandy Nelson. So that, I think that's why they have swing in their playing. But I think the reason they all sound so different from each other was that they weren't modeled on anything. There was no YouTube. If you wanted to hear a drummer playing, the only ways you could do that were you would hear their records on the radio, or buy the record and play it on your turntable, or go and see them in a concert. And in concerts, the odds of seeing any particular band with any particular drummer, it might come around once a year, once every other year, something like that, and you might not be able, it might not be in your town, you might not be able to get tickets. So we were just hearing this stuff. There was no YouTube. There were no concert movies. There were no concert movies. You couldn't see a drummer playing. And so those drummers back then they were just playing the way it seemed to them it made sense to play. Now, one of the reasons why I think drummers are also perfect is because of YouTube, right? How many videos are there on YouTube showing you how to play, showing you the technical aspects of playing? A million. I watched a ton of these, just like I'm sure you do. There are a ton of them out there. And they are all showing you the exact correct way to do it. And you can take that video and you can study it, and you can watch it, you can rewind it, you can go over it again and again, you can slow it down. With that kind of tool at your hands, of course techniques are going to get just exponentially better all the time. Of course they are. But the other part of that is that everybody starts to play the same. And everybody's playing gets more and more perfect. And remember those little graphs, more and more like death to me. Really, really boring. I don't want to die. And the primary reason I don't want to die is because I think death's going to be incredibly boring because nothing's happening. So I think that is a problem, that perfection. And I'll tell you, this series of videos is sort of based on two ideas. One is this: we do not play drums with our hands and our feet. All right, I'm going to say that again. We do not play drums with our hands and our feet. We play drums with our ears and our heart. That is how we play drums. The hands and feet are the cogs in the wheels that are necessary to make the thing go. But the music, the part that makes your playing distinctive, that makes people feel something. This is what music exists, to make you feel something, whether that's joy or sadness or desperation or suicidal depression or total celebration. Music exists to make you feel something, even if it just feel like dancing. I don't mean even just that. It's a pretty high calling by itself, getting somebody to dance. That's what music is for. And comes from your heart. And playing with other people requires playing with your ears. And the hands and the feet are simply the tools that do it, right? So that's one of the guiding principles for this series of videos. The other one is a quote from Charlie Parker, the bebop saxophonist. And he said, master your instrument, master the music, then forget all that bullshit and just play. All right? So all those YouTube videos we talked about, all those ones showing you exactly how to do it and close-ups and slow-mo and all that stuff, which I recommend that you watch. I recommend it. But all of those videos are focused on the mastering your instrument part of that quote. And let's face it, mastering an instrument, and mastering the drums in particular, is a very, very hard thing to do. It takes years and years and years of long practice and frustration and more practice and playing in all kinds of different settings and all kinds of places. I mean, in my career, I've played every kind of music you can possibly imagine. I've played in every kind of venue, from Max's Kansas City to Boston Symphony Hall to a roadhouse in Wyoming. Overseas, lived in a bus for years. That's the stuff it takes to master your instrument. And because it's so hard and it takes so long, what a lot of us do is we get stuck in that part of it. We master the instrument and we think, I'm done. My hands can now play anything. My feet can now play anything, absolutely anything. I have mastered my instrument. I am the complete drummer. Only you're not. Because remember what the quote says, right? The playing part. It's like master your instrument, then forget all that bullshit and just play. The just playing part comes after forgetting. The forgetting is the essential part, because all of the technical mastery comes from here. And this is not where we play the drums. I watched Mike Johnston had one of his videos there, and he's a phenomenal teacher, incredible drummer. I highly recommend watching his videos and learning what he has to teach you. But in one of those videos, he was referring to recording, and he was saying how there was a certain place where there's a cymbal hit to accent some part of the song. And he said, you don't think, that drummer planned that out. There's no surprises there. He knew exactly where that was going to go and what he was going to do. And I thought to myself, oh, no, that's my guiding principle is, if you are not surprised by what you play, you're doing it wrong. You should be surprised. You should be so out of your head when you're playing. I don't mean out of your head like crazy. I mean like not in your head. You should be in the music so much that you're not telling your hands anything. They are simply acting out what you're feeling. We play with our hearts and our ears, not our head, not our hands, not our feet. Head plays no part in it. It's the heart telling the hands and feet what to do, not the head. So that, I think, is why we're in the situation we are. And so all the videos I've seen for drumming on YouTube are all about the first part of the Charlie Parker quote. They're all about mastering your instrument. And you have to. You do have to do that. You need your hands and feet to be able to do whatever the music calls for. And so you have to do all that training. But the part I don't see on YouTube, and the reason I'm making these videos for you, is because we need to focus on the forgetting part. Master your instrument, then forget all that shit and just play. These videos are about forgetting all that shit. And by that, I don't mean that all those things you learned are no longer useful. They're essential. But one of the things that you learn in all those videos is this is what you should do. You've seen videos like 10 must-play funk grooves, 10 must-know fills, that kind of stuff. Yikes. No. If your head is full of those things you must know that are like, I'll take one from column A and one from column B, you're playing from your head. There is no music in your head. There's no music in your head. Music is entirely in your heart. So you don't want to have that stuff telling you what to play because that's what the rules say. You need to have the technique so that you can respond to your heart, but it's your heart telling you how to play. And that's what these videos are going to be focused on. We're going to go through a whole lot of things, mostly mental exercise. We're going to spend a lot of time on listening and how to listen, what to listen to, how to listen to it, and and what to do with the things that you listen to. We're going to do a lot of stuff about just rethinking everything from the ground up. We're going to figure out what are all the things that you take for granted as true, as facts about drums, about drumming, about music. We're going to dig down into those and start taking those apart, because what you know prevents you from experiencing what you could know. And so we're focused here on what you could know. And that means disassembling all of the boundaries and the structures that you're currently standing on and replacing it with the music from your heart. And when we do that, my hope is at the end of all of this, that you will be a drummer who has his own voice, his own feel. You're not going to sound like anybody else. You're going to sound like you. And you're going to be playing with so much heart and so much feeling that you're going to lift up every other musician around you. And you're going to make the whole band that you're playing with, or whatever group of musicians you're working with, you're going to lift them all up and make all of the music more musical, more exciting, more involving, make people want to dance more, make people want to cry, make people want to laugh. That's your job. That's my job as a drummer. And this, I want to just make sure I emphasize this. I am not trying to make you a better drummer. I'm trying to make you a better musician who happens to play the drums. And that's going to be the focus of all this stuff. I hope this sounds interesting and helpful to you. If it doesn't, that's fine. I don't take any offense at that. Go off and watch the 10 billion other things that are on YouTube and find something that you do like. That's, it's not for everybody. But if you do think this sounds like something you'd like to work on in your own playing, then I hope you will, don't smash anything, just firmly press the subscribe button. Click on the little bell icon so that you know when I make the next one of these, and we can do this together, because that's the way this has to work, right? I'm going to tell you things that I have figured out for myself about drumming over the years, but really, this is a journey we take together. And as I talk to you about this, I'm going to discover things in my own playing that I can work on and make even better. So that's the goal here. I hope you'll come along with me, and look forward to talking to you in the next video. So there we go. Thanks very much. Bye.